at a bank because you think of the branches and bankers and lenders and all that good stuff, but my job is to work on diversity initiatives, and that's with churches, colleges, universities, various organizations, and I do that throughout the entire state of North Carolina. My office is here. I'm a native of Winston-Salem, so Winston-Salem State. I saw this place kind of start very small and has just grown leaps and bounds. Coming to BB&T, one of the missions is to help our communities, and we have done that through working with local colleges and universities. In Winston-Salem State, we actually converted our new Walkertown Road branch to a RAM branch about 2 years ago, and I was a part of that and had the opportunity to meet some fine folks from the school, the alumni, the faculty, staff, students. So that branch is dedicated to this school. The team that we have there can come and help with financial literacy courses, can come help Dawn and other faculty members with various things they have going on. So we're very committed, and we're proud to be here today. And I want to introduce Kimberly, or she is our employment consultant. Is that kind of, I say HR, but recruiter for the Triad region. So she's a good person to know for you guys that, I know I met a couple of you when you walked in and said you're seniors. So she's going to go over this with you guys today and cover the polishing your professional image. So I will turn it over to you.
Okay, well, don't know if I have enough handouts for everybody. I think we have a larger turnout than we expected, but this is just kind of the same presentation that we're going to go through here in a couple minutes. Yes. There's not enough copies. Maybe somebody else could share and we can get these at the end. But like Teresa said, I work here locally in Winston-Salem. My office is here, but I support the entire Triad. I recruit for the branches, and I recruit for certain corporate lines of business too. So we don't just have jobs available in banking and in the branches per se, but we also have lines of business like accounting, credit, insurance, different types of positions here for entry-level positions once you get out of school. I don't know, is everybody here senior? No. The seniors, upcoming graduation in December and in May, sorry. You know, opportunities will be posted out there regularly. If it's a branch network position, even for those of you that are still in school, I'll go ahead and tell you that, you know, sometimes we have positions open in the summer or during off time when you're out of school, but during the regular school year, we kind of have to have somebody who has consistent availability. So even though there might be a part-time job listed, they're looking for somebody who can come in on a different schedule every week. So it may be Monday, Wednesday, Friday one week, the next week it'll be Tuesday, Thursday. So they're kind of looking for people that don't have a school schedule to work around, just for those. But once you graduate, apply for anything that you are interested in, because those hours are available to you. But before we get to that point, we'll go through this presentation. This is just something that we've used at other colleges for this similar type classes. Just talking about getting ready for the interview, how do you prepare for the interview, and going to the eventual job once you get that offer. So what you have on the presentation handout is basically the same thing. If you want to take notes, don't hesitate to raise your hand, ask questions. I want this to be interactive if at all possible, so stop me along the way. If Teresa sees you, she can stop me or whatever. So we don't have the remote control working, so I'm going to sit here and try to do this. But if you can't hear me, or if you have any questions, like I said, just okay. As you can see, image is everything. Everybody knows that, right? When you go to, whether it's an interview, whether it's you're going to class, you're trying to make a great first impression. When you first walk in, that's the first impression that everybody gets. So it's not just about the clothes. It's not just about how you comb your hair. It's the way you present yourself. It's how you come across is whether or not you're friendly or if you're closed off. So make sure that when you give that first impression that you are very positive, polished, and you have yourself really together, especially for that first job interview. Make sure that you are prompt. If I would recommend, if you have an interview, let's say it starts at 2 p.m., you don't want to be too early because then you're going to be sitting there and then you're going to get tired and you're going to lose your energy. Maybe anywhere between the 15 to 5 minutes early would be recommended. Just like I said, you don't want to be sitting there for a long time and you get tired and you lose your energy and your enthusiasm about the position, but you're also not waiting for a long time. There's no chance that you're going to be late. Make sure when you go in, you greet that person. Smile, look friendly, shake their hand, make sure it's a firm handshake, and look the part. If professional attire is expected, then you should definitely wear it. And we'll go over the different types of professional attire and business casual and those types of things a little bit later on. Certainly, you're going to make a first impression. You want to dress to impress. If you have any assignments or anything else, be prompt in completing those if you have an assessment for the position. They might email you something to take online. Make sure you get to that as quickly as possible. Now, if you have a class or if you have some other obligation, they understand that, we understand that, but certainly don't put it off for like a week if you're expected to have that done for that job interview or something. Try to follow up as quickly as possible and make sure that they know that you're interested. If you put it off, it kind of lets them think that this really isn't that important to them, so they're not going to take you as seriously as some of the other candidates who really show the enthusiasm to get those things completed as quickly as possible. Make sure that when you take your resume, and I know that you all have classes on this, review it, go through it, make sure that, as an example here, cross your T's and dot your I's. Make sure that there's no mistakes in the spelling, make sure that everything flows correctly, especially for certain positions that look attention to detail. Those things are important. Another thing is, try to be consistent. You might have a follow-up interview. Make sure you present yourself the same in both interviews. You might have different people each time, so you want to make sure that you follow up and you present yourself the same way, whether it's your attitude, your image, how you come across and present yourself. Just make sure that you take that image with you wherever you go. I know sometimes when you're starting out in first jobs, the interview process can be a little nerve-wracking. Make sure to make good eye contact whenever you are talking with somebody and answering their questions. Don't look at the ceiling or look at the walls or look at the floor, especially if it's for a client-facing position, like if it's a branch position or something that you're going to have a lot of interaction with the client or some other business partner. They want to know that you can talk to the clients as well as you can talk to them. So make sure you have that good eye contact whenever you go in with those interviews and that first job. Always maintain self-control. Try to keep an appropriate tone when you're speaking, whether it's an interview or in a corporate setting. There might be times when you have an irate client and you don't want to get irate yourself. You just want to kind of hold your own and have that tone go through there as positively as possible, even though you might really not want to feel that way. Next one, don't get coaxed into a negative conversation. Don't discredit yourself or the organization for which you work for or you're interviewing for. Just make sure that you always maintain positivity whenever you are having those kind of conversations. Be reliable if you're going to a job. If you get a job offer, make sure you show up and you're supportive and you are a loyal teammate. And then other things we can address later. Again, especially if it's a team environment, Teresa knows that BB&T, we really focus on being a team, whether it's an immediate part of your business team, whether it's an internal partner. We have a really team-oriented practice and value there at BB&T, and we take pride in that. So make sure that you present yourself as a valued member and willing to be a part of a team and to help out other individuals that you work with, if at all possible, or if you're called upon. So. All right, do we have any questions? I know this is a lot of information going on. Yes?
So when you're transitioning into an entry-level position and you're talking to, like, let's say the boss or whoever is hiring you, what level of enthusiasm or per se, like, do you want to show? I don't want to say if you want to show your boss to show that you're interested, but you don't want to be too anxious to show that you really need this job.
Okay, good question. You know, certainly we have one end of the spectrum and another. Somewhere in the middle is probably appropriate. You know, you want to show interest, you want to follow up if you have an interview, but you don't want to send 10 emails a day or call the person every day, because, you know, while this is your priority, they also have other things going on too, whether it's business, they may have other interviews that they're doing, and so they may not have time to get back with you immediately or within 24 hours. When you go to the interview, ask the question, you know, how long do you think it'll take to make a decision, just so you have a good idea in your mind when to expect a follow-up. That way, if he or she says, you know, we're still interviewing other people, we won't know until next week if we're going to have second interviews. Well, most likely you won't hear anything until that next week, or even, you know, soon after. But those are the types of questions to ask. That doesn't seem inappropriate. That doesn't seem too eager. It's just kind of, you want to know kind of when to follow up if you need to, but you don't want to bother them and you know, be too persistent. But you know, following up would be showing that you are interested in the job and you want to take this seriously. So, like I said, not 10 emails, not 10 phone calls, and just because you call and don't leave a message doesn't mean that they don't know that you're calling. So, you know, just keep that in mind, but do follow up after the appropriate time has passed if you haven't heard anything. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay. Any others? Okay.
Just been talking a lot.
Talking a lot. What is your desired personal image versus what is your perceived personal image? What do people say about you when you walk into a room? These are some things that you want to think about too as we go through the next section. Two, if you don't manage your image, then somebody else is going to be managing it for you. So make sure that you take control and you take responsibility for how you present yourself. Whether it's your clothes, whether it's your personality, your attitude, that's all back on you. Don't let somebody else dictate that for you. Try to, you know, going into these corporate settings and going into this, kind of have a strategic approach of how you want to present yourself. Don't wait till the last minute to try to prepare, whether it's your wardrobe or your responses or talking about yourself. You know, be prepared, feel confident. That when you walk in that door, you're ready to present yourself and you're ready to sell yourself on that job. So those are things to keep in mind too. Smart dress guidelines, and some of the stuff that we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth. Smart dress, you know, includes a lot of flexibility. Business casual can mean a lot of different things, whereas business dress can mean a lot of different things in different corporate settings as well. And we're going to go through some of the examples here. It necessarily has to be a suit all the time. If that's what your dress code calls for, then we'll go through some of those. But business casual can mean different things too, depending on the setting, and we've encountered that. And some things to do and things not to do throughout the process. Appearance reflects not only you as an individual, but the university as a whole. When you go to interview, keep that in mind, that you are representing not only yourself, but especially if you have on-campus interviews, you're representing your school as well with those employers. So keep that in mind. We are always expected to take pride in our appearance and present a professional and business-like image. Keep that in mind when you're going through this process. The attire should be suitable for the workplace. Depending on where you work, like I said, if you're in a client-facing setting, even at BB&T, and I'll get into this in different scenarios, our headquarters building is located here in downtown Winston-Salem. It's the big green glass building that you see. I think it still is. Every day.
Business.
Yeah, every day in that building you are expected to wear business attire, which means suit, jacket, tie. There is no business casual in that building because you never know who you're going to run into. You might run into clients, you might run into executive management. You could ride the elevator with Kelly King, who is our CEO and president. So you never know. But in other buildings that we have here regionally, where we have some of our more office support and lines of business like accounting and credit and lending, which they don't see people, they talk to people over the phone primarily. It's more of a business casual setting, so you don't have to wear a suit every day, but there's still certain guidelines to follow, even for business casual. You don't want to come in jeans that are ripped up. In fact, jeans aren't even allowed, or some of those other things. So we'll talk about the different levels of attire and what is considered appropriate. Another thing too, I know that you all are young and you're trying to get a job, but you want to stay up to date, but try to stay classic, not trendy, because those things change. And if you're going to invest in things to wear to the business world, you don't want to have to keep changing those every 6 months or every year. Try to get some things that you can keep and keep a classic look, rather than trying to be up to the minute on everything and having to go and replace it all the time. Look appropriate for a chance meeting with the president. Like I said,
Happened to me
Teresa
yesterday.
yesterday she had an encounter with Kelly King at our building.
He's never in our building, but he just happened to be there as I was leaving yesterday, and yeah, I had no idea.
You
I
never
don't even know
know.
what I had on yesterday, but like.
Her hands were full. She was
Yeah,
getting ready to
my
leave for the day.
hands,
She
yeah.
had a meeting this morning. So you never know who you're going to run into, whether they work in your building or not. They might just come by for a visit. So always be prepared and look appropriate. That doesn't say that you have to dress for a cocktail party either. You don't have to come in your very best cocktail attire, but at the same time, don't come in flip-flops or shorts or anything else. Shoe things? Okay. I just always try to be neat, clean, well-groomed, and some type of business type appearance. Ladies, some of these things that might be included: business casual slacks or dress pants, sweaters, blouses, jackets. Don't be too casual. Like I said, whenever you get a job, you will get a dress code. We have one at BB&T. I'm sure a lot of organizations have something similar. They will outline for you what's appropriate and what's not as far as business attire or business casual. Like I said, we don't allow jeans. We don't allow capri pants, even for business casual. Flip-flops are not allowed. I'm trying to think of some other things. A lot of stuff's not allowed.
Tank tops.
Tank tops.
Or too sleeveless, I guess you would. It's too.
There's something else that's really something that would be okay other places, but that we don't allow. Jewelry, makeup, perfume, cologne, all of that should be within good taste. You don't want to walk into a room and overpower people with any perfume or cologne, and then that be their lasting impression. By the same token, jewelry and makeup. I know at BB&T, piercings, if it's not in your ears, they have to come out during the day, especially if you're in a client-facing position. So keep that in mind when you're going to interviews too. Not just for the job if you get it, but if you have an interview, keep that in mind. It doesn't talk about it here. It may get to it in a minute, but while I'm thinking about it, tattoos, I know those are popular these days. At BB&T, if you get a job, it has to be covered. Even if it's on your hand or on your neck, you've got to have something to cover it up, whether it's a Band-Aid or something else. So just keep that in mind as you're going to interviews too. As you see here, avoid spaghetti strap tops, jogging suits, halter tops, and don't show too much cleavage. You don't want to give that impression either when you're walking into an interview or into the first job, because that's just not the first impression that you want to leave with your.
You have a question?
I do. As far as earlier we had stated something about representation of the, school or your job in general, even if you're in a client-based, job, like for example, I work in the medical field, obviously what I'm going into, and you are a representation of your job outside of work as well. Just like, police officers, EMS, fire department, is that true as well?
I would say so.
As stated?
Yes.
Especially when you're dealing with clients, because they see you, they're gonna remember Susan
They're going to know you,
off the street or someone else.
especially in a client-facing position, like in a bank, if you work in a branch. They walk into your client, whether you're out at lunch or at dinner on your own time, they're still gonna know you when you're out. So I would try to keep that in mind too as you're carrying yourself.
And then I had one other question, this
Okay.
came to my mind as well as, these online sites that they have, social media that seem to be a big deal. As younger, isn't that a representation of your job as well, things you display that can affect you future-wise too, as well as present?
Yes, and it's very sticky.
Because I know what field I work in, it's a, a big deal, with people, and, how they get forward and stuff too, from my boss.
Right, and as we all, and social media is out there right now, and it's something that's a big presence these days. Even organizations, BB&T has a Facebook page.
Absolutely.
Employees, we can't tell them what to put on their page.
No,
But at the same time, just be conscientious of what you're putting out there, especially with photos or any posts or status updates.
Nothing like, I'm so sick of this place, I can't wait for Friday to get here.
Yeah.
And people,
and it happens, and that's why I asked that, because, I say acquaintances, they're working like, top jobs, but do things that are like, low level that can cause them, and mess up not themselves, but the representation of that company they work for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, especially
And
if,
it's for a legal purpose.
right, like, I have a Facebook page, I don't know if you have one.
Yeah, I have one.
And sometimes you can put on there where you work, and I think I even have on there that I'm a recruiter for BB&T. That right there has me connected to my job, even though I'm not on my job 24/7. So whatever they see, whatever people see on my Facebook page and relate it back to me working at BB&T, they've already made that connection. So, just be mindful of that. Like I said, we don't necessarily monitor our employees and their Facebook pages or any other social media, but people talk.
Exactly.
Employees talk. It will eventually get back to management or other people, and you just want to be mindful of that, whatever you put out there. As you're looking for jobs, BB&T doesn't practice going out and visiting people's social media sites. We don't use that as far as making the decisions for hiring. Other companies do. I'm not going to tell you that they don't. So just keep that in mind. If you go for a job interview, they might go and look at your social media, whether it's your Facebook or Twitter or I don't even know what else is out there right now. There are a million things, but just keep that in mind as you continue to work through the process of getting that first job.
So really good points.
Yeah, the reason why I say, because I'm involved in recruiting at my job, and we had a young man, we never had men work at our establishment, and we had a man, and she did further, like, with little people, because we had some legal issues as well in the past. So now she actually does screening. Normally she lets you walk through the door, you're hired, you're great. Now she does screening, and then she added that into it now. When we checked their website, so she had an employee check the website and see what was on there, whether to keep them or not.
Yeah.
Just make
Because
sure.
we're dealing with people every day, and these people work out here in the medical field, and she don't want anything called slander her name, should she?
Right.
That's right.
And then she's worried about her livelihood.
One thing people need to kind of think about as you're moving toward, careers in various corporate settings or whatever, as you move in that direction, you are voluntarily giving up a certain amount of your, in a sense, right to privacy.
Right.
In other words, you're moving toward a more public life and a life of more public responsibility. And so the community has a right to have expectations of you because they have certain role perception. They fit somebody who's a corporate person is kind of like this. And deep down inside, that may be something that irks you. In other words, you kind of take the attitude of, hey, you know, I'm a person, they're a person, you know, I can live my life. You know, what I do in my private life has nothing to do with them. But it really does. And I mean, you'll find that a lot of people, like in corporate life, even when it comes like going to play golf, that's not time off. That's just another phase of your work. You're interfacing with clients and so forth. So therefore, how you dress at the golf course has to speak not only of, you know, your basic attitude about the work situation, but it also ought to speak to the quality of the job you have. In the sense that if I'm out there with these corporate people who have money and they are playing and they invest in their golf equipment and clothing, then as a representative of my organization, if that's what I'm going to be doing, I need to invest in that. That's tools of my trade. That's part of what keeps the conversation open. When I'm in, you know, if I'm riding a bus with my family or something, or I'm out just, you know, on a family vacation, a picnic in the park, you don't know who you're going to run into. People say, oh, you're Mr. So-and-so, you work for, you know, you're vice president of such and such. And you don't want people to go like, ooh, you know, wow, that's what he's like, you know, because I'm used to seeing this guy in a suit, and then I see him in the, you know, the Walmart special, you know, and I mean, it's like, whoa, not a good image. It's about preserving your image, because that is what becomes the currency for you to be able to do the kind of business that you want to do.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to add something to that. A lot of people, when they going into their careers, a career is kind of, to me, a career is different than just a job.
Absolutely.
You know, but a lot of people want to say that, oh, I'm not going to change, but that's unrealistic, because you can't go into a career with the mindset that you're going to do the same things you were doing when you didn't have a career.
Right.
You know, some of the things that you were doing, you might think appropriate now, but it's not appropriate once you start a career and get your life going with your career and things of that nature.
Life
So you
changing,
have
you
to
know.
change.
It is,
You have to
absolutely.
change. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, even like the lowest position, just like if you're a cashier, because I know I work at Sheets, and even when I'm out and like eat dinner with my dad or something, people will be like, hey, you know, how you been? Everything like, I'm just like, okay, it's like regular customers that see me out,
Yes,
they, like,
that's
just
right.
stop me
That's
and
right.
say, hey, and
That's probably
ask me how I'm doing and stuff.
people who see those positions are seeing more because
More.
they're kind of the person that, and that you may not always be at that level, you know, you have to keep that in mind. You know, you could grow into something.
Yeah, I mean, an entry level, whether it's a cashier, a teller, part-time teller, our regional retail banking manager started off working as a part-time teller in college. He worked his way through there. He moved up to, I think, a relationship banker position. He went through the LDP
Literally
program
each
and literally
step.
just went through each step. And now he's the regional retail banking manager for all of our branches here in the Triad. 60-some branches he's responsible for. So, just because, and I don't want to tell you all what jobs to look for because you're all here for different majors, but at the same time, don't look down on a teller job because of its title or your perception of it, because it can lead you to a lot of great things. It's just getting your foot in the door. If it's a part-time teller job, you may have another job while it's part-time, and then you get more hours because you're on board and you're the next one that they call for full-time. And then you might get that next step. So just keep those things in mind too. You gotta start somewhere. We all can't start at the CEO level or mid-manager level or anything else. So just keep that in mind too, as you're going through the process.
One little anecdote, just as a way of saying how some things like this do make a difference. several years ago, I started working at this radio station. And, you know, of course, everybody who works at a radio station, their big goal is to get on the air. And so I started out at this station, and when I started going there, obviously, nobody sees you at a radio station. So, you know, you figure, you know, it doesn't even matter how you dress, you just go. So I would go in there days, and I'd be just wearing, you know, jeans and a pullover shirt or whatever. And the first few weeks that I was there, they started having me work cleaning out some storage rooms. And I'm up here coiling dirty coaxial cable, big stuff. I mean, I just every day, and I'd go home looking like I'd working on a coal mine. You know, people go like, what were you doing? So I work at a radio station. It's like, really? you know. And then one day I just decided I'm not going. I get the feeling like this has something to do with how I went in there. And I decided I was going to change how I dressed when I went to work. So I went to work dressed too clean to do that stuff. And eventually what started happening was, the first day I came in there dressed differently, the station manager said, hey, you want to get some, learn to do some tape editing? It's like, ding. And from that point on, you know, I got an air shift. I was doing, you know, editing, doing all that kind of stuff. Never, ever hit the storage room again. You know, like she was saying earlier about that thing, you're the one who dictates that image and how people perceive you. And I've seen it happen over and over again in my own personal experience and in other people's experience. You go in, you dress like, you know, you want to play, and people treat you like a player. If you dress like you're ready to lead, they'll start thinking of you in that way.
All right, we talked about the ladies and their attire. Let's talk about the men. Same thing, you know, business dress and business casual are going to be, you know, two totally different scenarios. Business dress typically is a suit and tie. Very rarely do you go downtown and see people without that on. Shirts should have collars and tucked in, belts required. When the slacks have belt loops, and obviously avoid denim, jogging suits, and sweatpants, and those types of things. Inappropriate attire, some of the things that we've talked about before. Jeans of any color, athletic wear, leggings, t-shirts. Don't go in showing your belly. Workout clothes. You don't want to come to a job interview or a job itself and look like you just left the gym, especially if you're in a corporate setting. Don't wear your hats, caps, anything ripped or tattered, tight-fitting blouses or short skirts, or like I said, any other suggestive clothing for ladies. These are some of the things, these are just pictures that they cropped out for, to show examples of appropriate workwear. And this is going to fluctuate during the seasons, especially when you've got 90-degree weather. The blouse here in the middle would be fine, especially in the business casual setting. Obviously in the winter she would probably have on a jacket or something else, but these are just some appropriate workwear examples. More of your business wear for a corporate setting, and you can do a suit every day, whether it's a skirt suit, pantsuit, a dress with a jacket. As you have some more examples here. One thing, ladies, to be mindful of too, and you'll get this, like I said, in dress code once you get the job. For an interview, I guess you could kind of go the weather. I'm talking about as far as like pantyhose or those types of things. We don't require them any longer. It used to be that you had to wear them, especially downtown or when you had business attire, you had to wear them, especially in a client-facing environment. We have since done away with that because I think that's something that's getting not to be the trend anymore, thank goodness. I am not a fan, so I'm happy that they did away with that. But just when you're going to an interview, especially for a corporate position, and you're going in business dress, just be mindful of what would you think would be appropriate in that type of scenario. Shoes are something else to be mindful of. You know, don't wear 5-inch heels or stilettos. Don't wear sandals. Usually pumps of some kind, whether they're open toe or slingback, you know, are usually appropriate as long as they're not too flashy. Make sure that you can walk in them and not look like a baby deer who just got on his legs, shaky and.
You don't advise the ones that little spikes and
Yeah,
stuff.
again, you want to present yourself as being confident and not looking like you're going to fall down as soon as you walk in the room. Some other things, just a few examples of some jewelry and some other accessories. Like I said, don't go overloaded with jewelry and makeup. Just keep it simple and classic. Here are some more examples of appropriate footwear these days. Inappropriate workwear. Like I mentioned, denim's not appropriate. Capri pants, some places, some organizations that you will find capri pants will be fine. But until you know for sure, play it safe. I would advise against it, especially for an interview. Always go dressed professionally for an interview.
Good question.
Sorry.
question. Will the wedges also be a no-no?
Yes,
Okay.
At BB&T.
at BB&T at least.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, as far as for the guys with the jackets and the pants, does it depend on the company dress code whether they have to match or not?
I think I see everything
I think
now.
I've seen them mixed.
Mix.
So
match.
so if there are mixed, it is okay as far as visual
I
professional.
would think so, yeah.
As long as it's tasteful.
As long as it's tasteful,
Yeah.
and not, you know, flashy, and don't get into it here like your classic tones, whether it's navy, gray, black, tan, I guess you have to use.
But unless you've gotten some inside information as to what is appropriate for an interview, you'd probably be better to err on the side of a suit, matching jacket and pants, for an interview situation. Unless you've been told by the people that, no, you don't, sport jacket and thing would be fine. But you're rarely gonna get that. And it would be better to be slightly overdressed in that respect than to find out like, oh, should have worn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for interviews, I would agree with that 100%, play it safe. And then if you get the job and you get a chance to talk with some people there in the workplace, they can give you more inside scoop on that, whether or not you can wear a sport coat and yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the capris. I know there are some that's dressy and comes with a suit, so technically why is that not appropriate?
That's a good question. At BB&T, I know that's not, they just say no capris. It's just a straightforward, whether they're part of a dress suit or whether they're part of a casual attire. I think they don't want to do it on a case-by-case basis, so they just make a blanket rule, no capris.
But you do see,
You
you
do
know, some
see-
companies, people with.
And it's fine, especially in the summertime, I know you can see that, I know some have short, like Bermuda short type suits too, so I'm just giving you kind of the BB&T dress code when I'm using some of these examples, so certainly other organizations may have a little bit more lenient process. And yet, yes, ma'am.
Did you mention bow ties? I know certain companies really don't like them, and then some you can get away with.
Oh, we have several
We have
people
people
that
with bow
sport the bow tie. Like we have a guy on our floor, Esteban,
Yes.
he's always gone with bow tie.
you know, if you have a question about something like that, probably it's going to be difficult at times to get answers to those kind of questions in advance. I think what you'd probably be better doing would be go ahead and wear a conventional, you know, fairly conservative necktie. And then if you go to the organization and you look around and you see people wear this on a regular basis after you get the job.
So that way you won't even have to ask, you just.
Right. You know, I mean,
place.
you'd have to kind of observe the culture, and when you go into an interview situation like that, now you're dressed appropriately.
Right.
You're dressed.
Right.
They know you can do that part. So if you're in that part where they ask you, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah.
You could say, I was noticing that, the dress here is a bit more casual than I'm dressed right now. Is that the standard here? In other words, is that what's expected of an employee when if I were to be hired here, would this be what I see? Is that how I should come?
Yeah.
I mean, because that's a legitimate question, but you are asking that question dressed well, right?
And another thing just to keep in mind too, whether it's an interview or whether it's when you start, I know some places have casual Fridays or business casual Fridays, so if you go into an organization for an interview and you're in a suit but everybody else is kind of in a business casual, don't take that as the necessary dress code. That could just be a business casual day. Two, you may start work on a Wednesday or a Thursday and everybody's or you may start on a Friday, and everybody's who's been there is in business casual. So just kind of keep that in mind as you get started to feel out what the appropriate attire might be. And they may have a business Friday or a business casual Friday at that workplace. Any other questions? These are good questions. So, okay. More things for appropriate wear for your business. Inappropriate work wear, as you see here, rolled up pants or sweatpants or polo shirts. Collars popped up.
There you go.
You got a question?
I just want, to add on to that too, because you gotta think about this too, you see people like that, the first thing is, you say dress, that's what we're talking about, an impression. You might be the best person in the whole wide world, but for someone that doesn't know you, all they see is what you are, that's right, and they don't take you serious, and you look like a joke, and that might have been just that day, that y'all wearing it, but they don't know that.
Right. Right. And just some other things, I know we've talked to most of about dress here recently, just some other things to keep in mind as you're going and preparing for interviews or preparing for your first week on the job, if once you get that job. Kind of keep in mind, you're presenting yourself from the time you pull in that parking lot. You never know who's going to be watching out the windows. You never know who's going to see you in the lobby or in the parking lot. I would also advise against, if you happen to smoke, don't do it before the interview. Not in the parking lot. They can smell it when they get on the interview. When you get on an elevator or when you walk into an office. You might be okay with it. That person, it might completely offend and you wouldn't know that. Same thing goes with perfume, cologne, like I mentioned earlier. A lot of people have sensitivity to that, whether you're in an elevator, whether you're just passing them in the hall. You don't know what kind of interview room you're going to be in. It could be a close-knit space. So being in there, that might completely sway them and get them off topic and lose their concentration on what they really need to be focused on, just because that kind of gave them that first impression of, ooh, and from that point on, it's like a big deterrent.
And that would be a terrible thing, to be an excellent candidate for a position and to have everything together on your resume. And then all of a sudden you go in there with this extremely loud cologne or perfume on, and the person can't hear or see you because their eyes are swelling up, they're about to choke, and they can't deal with the whole situation at all. And so anything you say or do, they're gonna try to get that interview over as quickly as they can, simply because for their own survival, they gotta get you out of the building. Then they're gonna have to try and find a way to wipe down everything you touched. And I mean, you've been there, you've shaken hands with people and walked away, and they're still with you. I mean, you know,
That's true.
and I mean, you know, I know personally, one day somebody came to my office here, and I was doing resume consultations, and I had two people in at the same time, and then one person, I had a phone call come, and while I was on the phone, I heard one person telling the other person, this is how you get them to look at your resume. He says, I always put some cologne on mine. And I couldn't help but hear this while I was on the phone, and I was trying to get off the phone as quickly as I could. It's like, yeah, I gotta talk to you later. It's like, dude, don't ever do that. Don't put cologne on your resume.
It's a love letter or something.
Yeah. I said, man, you find somebody with the allergy, and that's it. You will be remembered. You will never come, because somebody looks like this. If the paper smells like this, there's no way in the world I'm going to sit down for a half an hour and talk to this person. They got to be crazy. Don't ever do that. You know, that's not a trick that works. That's a trick that's guaranteed to get you nothing. So please, be careful.
I just wanted to add this, because I mean, you know, I remember back when I was this age and you're hanging out, you know, I had the hardest thing is, where do you go get the clothes and come up with the money to go get the clothes? I mean, it's really hard when you, and that's something, I mean, I don't have an answer for that. You have a good answer?
Ladies, Burlington Coat Factory.
And Goodwill.
Yeah.
And then my thing is, people are too uppity for that, but you understand, you go to different locations, different areas, those people turn this stuff in brand new.
I was just Goodwill the other day, and what Mega Thrift, they split better quality from the regular quality. So Ann Taylor and all them are on one side.
That's great.
And
That's
it's
great.
a little more.
And although I
Still
don't,
not like going to Amazon.
although I don't go there for shopping, I'll tell you this, I put stuff there. So I'll say right now, there are a lot of people who, like, if you've lost weight or something, you're not wearing that suit
That's true,
anymore,
too.
and you don't want to put the money into getting it altered, you might go ahead and put that thing in the Goodwill, and it's like, that is a perfectly good
Or,
suit.
or the outlets, I mean, people wanna get expensive, people that are uppity, like expensive stuff. And that's how I am, I like just expensive, this is what I like. But you go forward and get, you know, the same quality, you know. same
You'll be
thing.
surprised.
A few
Where's
years
your
back, a
size?
friend of mine came to church, and he had on this super sharp gray suit, really nice muted pinstripe, looked fabulous. I'm going like, whoa. I said, aren't we spending some money? And he goes like, you know how much I paid for this? I said, no. He said, $2.
Where you go?
Goodwill. And if you go to certain stores, you can catch some sales. One day, I was at TJ Maxx. I found a pair of gray slacks, $5.
Yeah.
Then I went to when Macy's was, when they were getting ready to do a changeover from Hex to Macy's. They was changing out the whole clothing line. So I was looking for a sport jacket. So this guy came to me and he goes like, what size are you? And I'm going like, I can't stand salespeople when they start doing that. Some size, you know. He goes like, no. What size are you really? I said, wait, I told him. He said, you sure? I said, yeah. He says, hold on a second. So he goes and he gets this sport jacket. He goes like, I said, what size is that? He goes, it's a 41. I said, there's no way. He says, no. Try this. So he put it on and it fit, right? So I'm sitting there and he goes like, so how much do you think this costs? I said, no matter what I'm going to say, it's going to be not right. But I said, $100. He goes like, try again. Anyway, he got it. It was $19.95.
What?
Because they were closing out all of the lines that Hex had, and they had to get rid of it. And so they had this Izod sport jacket for $19.95. I still have that jacket to this day. And the thing about it is, so I went to teach the next Monday, and I was wearing, my necktie cost more than everything else I was wearing, right? You know, I mean, because I was wearing a pair of $5 slacks and a $20 sport jacket, and it was like, So, you know, you can find it. Men K&G menswear. You can get suits, you can get, you know, a couple of suits for like $100 each or something like that. I got a bunch of sport jackets, $30 for a sport jacket.
Belt.
You know.
Belt has some good stuff too.
I'm sorry? Belt, yeah. So you gotta catch the sales, you gotta kind of watch and everything, but I think the important thing is this, it's investment. It's investment. These are the tools of your future trade. You gotta invest in how you look, you gotta invest in those in that clothing, because that stuff is gonna be the signature for you to get in the door. After you get in the door, I mean, you know, if you happen to be one of those closet geniuses who wears, you know, purple tennis shoes and you know, and a beanie, you know, I mean, they may say, well, you know, that's Chris. He's our closet genius, so we let him get away with anything. But that doesn't usually happen for most people.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
How important is diversity in BB&T?
Very, very important. It's one of our main focal points right now is hiring, and like Grace said, she said she's a multicultural markets officer.
Yes.
But that's something that we have our We do have internships available mostly in the summer. I don't know if they have them available any other time of the year. They start posting for those in the early spring, but there will be postings on our website. So just make sure that you keep watching the website and apply for those as quickly as those postings become available, because they will fill up quickly. We have them for various lines of business, corporate areas, but we have a recruiter that focuses strictly on internships.
And the recruiter, what are you looking for when you go, students or anything?
It depends on what I'm looking for. If it's for a branch position, the first thing I focus on is, if it's a sales position, I want to look to see if they've had any type of sales, whether it's retail, working at Ann Taylor, or whatever type of retail, Foot Locker, wherever it might be. That's a plus. For a teller job, if you've had any cash handling, working at a Sheetz, or working at a Chick-fil-A, or a Burger King,